dial over to a student, a friend of mine, who has a personal story that he's going to tell. And as he tells it, I want you to just listen for the ways that different people have been able to pour into him. Tristan Trechsel is literally one of the most remarkable people that I know, period. I met him when he was a freshman here. Amazingly gifted, amazingly experienced, but also joyful, learning, growing. It's just a real gift to know him. So I'm excited now, Tristan, to hear your story.
Thanks, Madison. That was really nice. Wow. So I'm kind of used to telling my story, but not so much to highlight the institutional generosity, and I wanted to do that, so forgive me if I have these lines up here. My name is Tristan Trechsel, and I was born in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm a senior here at UNC, and I'm in the business school, and I'm here on a full academic scholarship. And next year, I'm going to be an investment banker in New York. You might hear me saying all this and label me a hard worker. You might think that I'm really smart, or I made a string of good decisions. You might see me up here and think that you know a good idea about what my story might be, what it might look like, but the truth is, my story is very unorthodox. I'm more fortunate than even I can understand, and God has worked in my life through my friends and my family and all of the institutions that I've been a part of, so I want to share with you a little bit of my story today and try to highlight some of those institutions and those people. When I was 5 years old, my parents passed away. They were unmarried drug addicts, so you can imagine what life was like for me before then. And to tell you the truth, it didn't really get much better after that. I was adopted into a family characterized by codependence and toxic behaviors and abuse and all this stuff. My home life was not super easy, and we were also very poor. We had bed bugs throughout the whole house. I had to do all my back-to-school shopping at the thrift store, and I couldn't always go to the doctor when I needed to. And we lived in a part of town called East Lake. So if any of you guys are from Birmingham, you might know that East Lake is not so great. The schools were dangerous and underfunded. But thankfully, my aunt and uncle, my aunt being my real father's sister, paid for me to attend private school at the Advent Episcopal Church. And there, my teachers really cared about me. They gave me a chance to grow. They challenged me. Every Wednesday morning, we would all go to chapel. And of course, no one at home at this time was telling me about Christ. And so, during school hours, despite what was going on at home, I was loved, I was safe, and I had a fighting chance. And I think that God was there. In early high school, I began to develop a drug and alcohol problem of my own. And, in substance abuse, I found escape from the hardships of my home life. By this point, we had moved around quite a bit. My adoptive parents had split, and my mom took me to Orlando, Florida, where I was in public schools for my 10th and 11th grade year. And public schools are beholden to the laws of their states and counties, and there was this law in Florida that said that if a student misses more than 15 unexcused absences in a given semester, he has to be held back. And my second semester, my junior year, I missed more than 50 days. And I was set actually to move in with my aunt and uncle in Birmingham after this year and finish high school there. And if I had been held back, it could have thrown a big wrench in all of that. And my time in Orlando was the darkest period of my life. But the school was gracious, and they allowed me to pass, and that was that. I think that God was there too. My aunt and uncle, they took me into their family, and they loved me unconditionally. And it took me a while to accept this love. For a long time, all I brought them was headaches and heartbreaks, and I continued to use drugs and alcohol as a crutch. I lied to them, and I manipulated them, and they continue to love me and provide for me like a mother and father would. They're incredible people, but I digress. I finished high school with a 4.0 and a full academic scholarship to UNC, and I was incredibly fortunate to get that because I promise you I did not work nearly as hard as my peers for this. I think that someone took a chance on me. And I wish that I could tell you that I immediately capitalized on this opportunity that I saw was in front of me and took advantage of it, and I did not. 2 months before my move-in date, I was arrested for possession of a controlled substance. And if the courts had decided to move forward with the charge, the school would have been notified, they would have been forced to revoke my scholarship, things would have turned out much differently. But they were gracious, and I got a few minor penalties and some community service, and basically it was it was wiped clean. And I think that God was there too. So upon arrival to UNC, I found myself with way too much freedom than I knew how to handle. There's one guy that I roomed with in the same suite in this room. I hadn't seen him in a while, and he could probably tell you I was not operating like a normal, healthy human being. I couldn't cope with the stresses of everyday life. I would continue to use drugs and alcohol as a crutch. And my second semester, I ended up getting a 0.0 GPA. And if you want to know how to do that, you don't attend a single class. And about 2 weeks before finals, so I had spent like the whole semester just like partying. My aunt and uncle found out, and they came to the rescue, and they took me and we met with the administration and tried to figure out, what are we going to do? And I knew I needed help. I really did. And the administration was so unbelievably loving and kind and generous. And they helped me to do a medical withdrawal, which essentially meant that that whole semester was sealed. So you won't find it on my record. And they helped me navigate a treatment center. And so I was able to go to like a first-class treatment center, leave school and get the help that I needed. And then I went home for a little bit, and when I was ready to come back to school, I reached back out and said, hey, is there any chance? Probably not, I know, but can I come back? And they welcomed me with open arms. They helped me navigate a transition and develop a plan with my family to try to maintain my sobriety and grow in it. And most amazingly, they helped me keep my scholarship, which, I just can't, I did not deserve it to begin with, and I did everything under the sun I could to lose that privilege, and they let me have a second chance. And so I looked back, and I realized that for the first time in my life, I realized that I had a chance to choose a different path. I didn't have to be my father. I could choose truth, and I could choose to love. And, I looked back at my life and realized all the moments that God had been there. He had worked in my life through people and institutions that gave me more than I deserved. And He protected me. And, a lot of the times I had a lot of resentment for these organizations. But, God's humbled me, and He's made me grateful. And so today, I've been sober for almost 3 years, and I have a loving family and a very loyal group of friends, and I have my dream job lined up for me when I graduate. And I'm really trying to give back. I try to bring a spirit of service to everything that I do, whether that's in my schoolwork and group projects in the business school or in my work in real life. I'm also very involved in a 12-step group in the Chapel Hill area, and I spend a lot of time there trying to share my story with others and bring my experience, strength, and hope and help other people in their sobriety. I'm also a musician in my free time, and I'm putting out an album pretty soon, and I'm trying to use that to give back to this university. I don't know exactly how yet. I'm thinking maybe Carolina Covenant, but that's neither here nor there. And I'm also obviously very passionate about addiction and mental health, and I hope to one day affect some kind of change in that area. I'm not really sure how, though, because, of course, I don't know what God's plan for me is yet. But I do know that He wants me to be a good steward of my story. And the details can be painful. And, I try not to dwell on the past as much as possible. But it's a testament to His sovereignty. And I would be remiss if I didn't share it with people. And I think, for all you people in the audience, I think all of you have examples like this in your own stories. And it's probably painful, it's probably hard to talk about, but God was there, and maybe He meant for you to share it with someone. Thank you.